Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Angela Braniff, and today I'm going to be sharing with you guys our sort of end of year homeschool curriculum recap. I'm going to talk about the stuff that we used this year that we really loved, the stuff that was kind of so that we might not even carry into next year. Yeah, so we're just going to kind of talk about that in general and how our school year went, changes we're planning on making now. We are not entirely done. We are year-round homeschoolers, and because of the adoption of our son Benjamin, we started way later than we usually do. So we are actually not done, but we are in our fourth quarter. So I figured I would at the very least go ahead. I know a lot of people are done and they are kind of looking forward to what they potentially want to try for next year's curriculum and that sort of thing. So I thought, let me at least give you all my thoughts, because even though we're not totally done with everything, we're done enough that I can at least tell you what I think and if I would use it again. So before we get too into it, I just want to add that I'm going to be doing a video sharing with you guys end of year testing, like sort of how we structure it, how we do all that. That video is going to be coming. We are also going to be doing our back to school week again this year. Last year I did it where I did 7 days of homeschool videos, back to school series with giveaways associated. So that's going to be coming as well. And I'm also going to be sharing our curriculum picks for next year. I have stumbled upon some things that I didn't even know existed before, and I'm very excited. We're going to be adding some new things to our homeschool this year that I have never used before, and just I'm very excited about. So if you love homeschooling content, if you love curriculum and talking about all those things, then be sure to subscribe, because there's going to be more of that sprinkled in as we finish out this school year and start planning and moving into the next one. So I have some very exciting news that is going to be coming up very shortly, and I've been working on something and I think it's going to be really, really incredible, and it's arguably something I haven't been this excited about in a really long time. It's a big deal and an exciting thing, and I'm really excited. So if you want to be in the know, if you want to be the first to know about all of this as it launches and as it's happening, I'm going to have a link down below in the description box where you can sign up, because all the information is going to go out to this group, to this email list first. So be sure to sign up down below in the description box. I will have a link for you to do that so that you don't miss any of that, and it comes directly to you first before it ever potentially even makes it to a video here on YouTube or anywhere else. So lots of exciting stuff to come. So let's jump into the curriculum. I've got my, I can't even lift it. I probably just gave myself like a hernia, or at the very least a hemorrhoid. I have just brought out some samples because I didn't want to, my kids were actually in the homeschool room doing some independent work, so I didn't want to film in there, and I didn't want to drag everything out here. So I'm just going to I've written down some notes, some highlights, some things I want to touch on. Let's talk about some stuff that we really loved this year. Now, we had this year, my daughter is 13, so she was in 7th grade. You guys know I'm a little loosey-goosey with the grades, with grade levels for my kids. But for the purpose of this, I have a 7th grader, 5th grader, 2 2nd graders, and a kindergartner. That being said, let's just go ahead and jump in. I want to talk about, this is the first year that we have really used a Bible curriculum, if you will. We have always done different Bible studies and devotionals and things like that, but this year I wanted to try this. This is from Apologia, and it's part of their Bible curriculum series, and the first set of books is called Who is God? So you have a teacher book like this, and then you have, the kids each have a lesson book, a student workbook. And the other thing I want to mention before I get too much farther, just because I think it will help make things make sense, in our home, in our homeschool, we don't require our children to join into group subjects until the 3rd grade. That's not to say that they don't do it, but they do it by choice. So when you are in kindergarten, 1st or 2nd, you are not required to sit down and do history or science or any like that kind of stuff with us. Most of the time, and a lot of the time, they want to join and listen and participate and all that. I have everything for them to do so if they wish, but I don't require it, and I specifically don't require it of my very my very high energy kids who just need to really have their schoolwork be very, very focused. So for the younger kids, they focus on reading, writing, arithmetic. That is what they focus on. Everything else is just funsies. It's just for fun for them at that age. And I'm totally comfortable with that. I know some people aren't and they want to like hit the history hard in kindergarten and stuff. I've just found my kids don't retain any of it and it's futile and just creates a frustrating environment, particularly for a little boy who just wants to get outside and play in the dirt and doesn't really want to sit here and learn about atoms and molecules right now. So now, my son next year will be in the 3rd grade, and so that is when he will be joining us for some of these group subjects. So for a lot of the group subjects, it's pretty much my older girls. That's where I kind of have my focus, and then the younger kids, like I said, join us when they want to. Hopefully that makes sense. So I really enjoyed this. What I found that I loved the most, and again, I feel like I don't want to go back through and explain every little thing about my teaching style. If you are new here and you're curious, I have lots of other content. I will leave a link to a playlist down below if you want to go learn a little bit more. But I am very eclectic. I like something that kind of gives us some roots and a foundation that we can build off of. Sometimes I enjoy a little open and go curriculum, but a lot of times I want something that allows me to have open-ended conversations and dig deeper with my kids in areas that they show interest. So that's one thing I really liked about this was I felt like it brought up a lot of good conversations and thought-provoking questions that I was really able to spend some time with my girls and ask them, what do you think about that? How do you feel about that? You know, it really brought up a lot of good conversations. So we wrapped this up. We are done with this. And I did go ahead and order the next one for our next year, which we might go ahead and start anyways now just because we enjoy it. But I did really enjoy the Apologia Bible curriculum. History. So this is our 2nd year doing Good and Beautiful History. I had mentioned previously that there was a little part of me that thought about switching away from this and going to, what is the name of that one? Bookshark. Going to Bookshark. I'm glad I stuck with The Good and the Beautiful another year. I really enjoyed this curriculum. I feel like whenever I watch curriculum videos, moms often say a lot of the same things about this curriculum that they enjoy. And I think that's part of the sort of universal appeal to it, is that it's not, a lot of other curriculums are, it might be a 4-year cycle, but you're focusing on one time period. So Renaissance, and that's like all you're doing, or ancient times, and that's all you're doing all year. And the kids kind of get bored of it. I don't, because I love it. It never fails to fascinate me, but my kids are like just bored to death by it. So the reason that I really like The Good and the Beautiful History is because it takes you through ancient to modern times every year, just hitting on different points of the timeline each time. So you could honestly start at you could start at year 1, year 2, year 3, or year 4, in my opinion, and it really wouldn't matter. I mean, technically they do build off of each other a little bit, but not in such a critical way that you couldn't mix it up a little bit. Or if you were adding kids in at different points, you know, let's say next year we're going to be doing the year 3, but my son, my 3rd grader, it's going to be his first year really being required to join us for history. And so I don't think he's going to be like, wait a minute, what? Like, what happened? Where, huh? It makes it so that you can kind of slide in at any point. Hopefully that makes sense. Really enjoy this. As I always say with history curriculums, this is one of those things that, yes, there's stuff in here that I don't love. There's stuff in here I don't entirely agree with. So I am a eat the meat, spit out the bones when it comes to pretty much anything that I read or study or whatever. So even when it comes to curriculum and my kids and homeschool, it's the same thing. I got to one particular lesson that I just wasn't feeling the way that they were presenting it, and so I skipped it and did a little bit of research on my own and presented the lesson in a different way to my kids. And that was only one lesson out of the entire book. So I was pretty pleased with this. I will say that my older girls are kind of a little like on the read aloud or the stories, like the audio book part of it, where you get on the computer and it tells you a little story. But I feel like my girls are a little bit, they're a little bit like me in that they're both a little bit not cynical, but a little bit, and I don't know. They're just not, they don't like love things that feel kind of cheesy. And so that is, I think, will be very appealing to my younger son in the coming years. I think he will enjoy that, and they'll continue to listen. But, and it does help them, but you know, it's kind of one of those things. I think it depends on your kid's personality. But there's a lot, again, that can be built off of this. In fact, we're still not completely done with it because we hit pause because we decided to dive like head first into the Constitution, Declaration of Independence. So we actually hit pause at a certain point. I don't remember which lesson we stopped on at this point, but we've only got a few left. We hit pause and I created a whole separate unit myself that we've been doing for the last 2 weeks about the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, having the girls, my girls memorizing the preamble. That's what I love to do. Like, that's the part of homeschooling that really makes me come alive. And part of what I really love is finding things where my kids are showing like a smidge of interest and I'm also really interested in it. And so I'm like, I pounce on that. Like a lion, I pounce on that. And I'm like, yes, let's do that. So we've been kind of diverting and focusing on that. And I like it. I like that I can build off of it. I like a lot of the read alouds that go with it, and we do a ton of reading aloud. And so, yeah, I really enjoy this, and we will be doing year 3 next year. Other thing from The Good and the Beautiful that I have just really, really enjoyed so far on every level we've done. I think I have a child we've done kindergarten all the way to their highest level, I believe. Although I think I saw that they came out with a new level of handwriting. But The Good and the Beautiful's handwriting, I just really enjoy it. My kids seem to really enjoy it. That's my little JJ, my little kindergartner. And yeah, I think we'll stick with it. The only thing that's tempting me, I'm not gonna lie, the thing that's tempting me is my friend here on YouTube, Nikki Lynn, A Farmhouse Full. She has her own handwriting curriculum that she's done, that she's created. So I actually think I'm gonna buy hers because it's a download and then you print it and bind it and all that yourself. So I think I'm gonna buy hers and test that out and see if my kids might like that, just because what she showed in her video was very intriguing to me. I loved that she focused on like commonly misspelled words and homophones and things like that. But I will say that I do love that The Good and the Beautiful, I can't remember which level it is where they start cursive, but all of my kids will learn cursive at some point. I think that's another thing that I just like about homeschooling is I don't like to move my kids to cursive until I feel very confident in their print. And one of my children in particular, just their print had a tendency to backslide. Like as they started adding in cursive, I noticed that the print was starting to backslide. And I was like, nope, okay, we're pausing on the cursive until we can really nail down the print, because inevitably I realize we all form our own writing styles that oftentimes looks like a little mishmash of print and cursive. But Good and Beautiful handwriting, really liked that. The other thing, and I just brought out one book, and this is actually one that is completely unused because somehow or another I ordered the wrong level. So I just stuck this in my closet to be able to use when I have a kid that can use this level. But you know, we have done The Good and the Beautiful's language arts, various levels, from kindergarten all the way to level 6 or so, I think. And there's parts of it that I like, and there's parts of it, well, I shouldn't say I don't actually, as the teacher, have a problem with any of it. My children are the ones that seem to not be as interested in it. And you know, there's a breaking point always with homeschool stuff where it's like sometimes you need to pick things that you as the teacher are interested in because then you will do a better job of teaching it. But in other areas, you know, I like to follow my kids' lead into things that seem to work for them and that they enjoy. So all of that to say, this year I decided to try some of the younger ones on language lessons for a living education, and also my 5th grader. She did this language lessons for a living education this year. And I like this. This is a Masterbooks curriculum. I feel like I've been really pleased. This is my first year trying stuff from Masterbooks, I think. So we did Masterbooks, I'll talk about that in a second, math for the younger ones, and then language as well for different levels. And I really like this. I like that they use story. It kind of, I believe it's like a Charlotte Mason based type curriculum. So they're using stories and things to bring it to life for kids. And it seems to work really well. And I just like this. It's a little less cumbersome because we tend to use a lot of our bandwidth on some group things. And I don't like to have my kids bogged down by having an hour's worth of language arts to do because they get so much of the other stuff in other areas that we're doing. So I really liked the Masterbooks language, the language arts for Masterbooks, as well as the Masterbooks math. So again, this teaches math through story, and that is really great if you know, depending on what kind of kid you have, what kind of learner you have. What we typically do is start teaching textbooks in the 3rd grade. So the sort of plan moving forward is to have our kids, kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, will do Masterbooks math, and then they'll go into teaching textbooks in the 3rd grade. I love teaching textbooks. It's so great as a parent, and so just I can't say enough good things about teaching textbooks, and we've used it for years and just love it. So we'll definitely be sticking with teaching textbooks for the older grades, but younger grades, we're going to use the Masterbooks because teaching textbooks doesn't start until level 3 or grade 3. If you have a math whiz of a kid, then I know like 2nd graders and stuff who do the level 3, but I would say that's probably for a child that seems to have a natural inclination towards mathematics, if you will. We did for science this year, we used a number of different Good and the Beautiful science curriculums. They're science units basically. So there were some that we liked and some that were, you know, we just finished the water unit, and my kids were not, they were interested in the beginning. Some of the initial stuff, maybe some more of the like chemistry type stuff was interesting to them. But as we moved on, it just they just lost interest in it. I like the Good and the Beautiful units for science, you know, space, mammals, biology, health, water, all this weather, all these different ones. I like it. I find it very easy for me to build off of and add on to. I think that the better job I do of that piece of it, the better it goes over with my kids. If I do a lackluster job of beefing up the unit and finding extra things to make it more interesting, diving deeper into certain things, if I do a good job of that, then my kids are interested and they're in it. I think part of the water one too is that normally we have field trips and things associated with whichever unit we're doing, and because of lockdown, there were no field trips associated with water. Had we been able to go to a water processing plant and see the process as they learned how it comes from the reservoir and you know how they sift it through dirt, and if they would have been able to see that, I think that could have helped again bring it to life a little more. But no field trips meant that it was a little two-dimensional for them, and I, you know, wasn't able to be as three-dimensional with it as and also we did this unit in the middle of me launching my book, so I wasn't as good at getting in the nitty-gritty of things with them. So maybe that's why that particular one, but I think that they've said they want to do, and I own a bunch of them. So I've already bought them and have them on my shelf. So I think we're going to do mammals. And then I think they wanted to do marine animals as well. So I think we'll do those two and see how that goes. And then I am considering, because I love the Apologia Bible so much, I'm considering looking into the Apologia science and God's design. I know other people who've really liked the God's design science. So I'm going to look into those. Whenever stores open back up, I'm going to head back up to our local homeschool store that carries a lot of used curriculum, where I can kind of leaf through those different science types and see if I think it would be worth switching. But I do think that the Good and the Beautiful has redone a lot of their science units to make them expand further, because they are, a lot of them were like K through 6, with a few that were K through 8. And now I feel like they've redone some of them, and they're like their weather one was K through 6, but now it's K through 8. So I think they're doing a good job of expanding those for more grade levels. So we'll see what happens with that. But I enjoy them and I enjoy putting them together, but like I said, I think that my kids' interest in it does have a lot to do with how good of a job I do of pulling everything together for them. These, I don't know why I have these in my lap. These are books I'm reading. We really focused hard and heavy on read-alouds this year. I just went all in on the idea of reading aloud to my kids, and it has made such a difference in them and in me, and it's been so good for all of us. I really fell in love with the idea of focusing on read-alouds when I discovered Sarah Mackenzie and Read Aloud Revival and the Read Aloud Family, her book. And I just fell in love with the whole idea of it and wanted to implement it. We were always doing it on some level, but I just never prioritized it or recognized how much of an impact it could have on my kids and on our homeschool, and even not just for homeschool, like nighttime, daytime, in the car, audiobooks. Like, I love to read, and so I thought that, oh, my kids will see me read and then they'll want to read too, right? But that wasn't really happening. And so I have this unique opportunity to bring stories to life by reading aloud to my kids, which is helping to really get their interest in books. I hope that that makes some kind of sense. So what I did was, before I came out here, I asked them of what we have done as read aloud so far this year, what was your favorite book? And I thought I would share with you guys what they picked. My two older girls, I asked them to pick, and I picked a favorite as well from our read aloud. So I thought I would share those with you guys really quickly. If they're on your list for next year, or if you want to add them to your list of read alouds, these were ones we really enjoyed. So my 5th grader Shelby picked, for her favorite was Esperanza Rising. I will say that these were all a toss-up for me. Man, did I love them all too. I totally agreed with their picks. Let me just say that. Esperanza Rising was such a good book. I think the author did a fabulous job of taking the main character, Esperanza, and really her internal struggles and character, watching that develop over the course of the book. Just a great book. Lots of good topics get brought up. There's lots of good discussions that can happen based on that book. So that was my 5th grade daughter's pick, though we all agreed on our favorites. This was my daughter, who's in 7th grade, and we just finished this one. Her pick was A Long Walk to Water. And y'all, this book, it did me in, man. Such a tender topic for me anyways, just because of my deep love for Africa and Congo and Uganda. And this book is set in Sudan, and it's a true story based on a true story. And I love, it kind of has this dual narrative of two different characters, and there's obviously a collision there at the end that brings it all together. But it was great, and something that as soon as we finished it, my daughters asked me to look up this nonprofit that was started, Water for Sudan, and like, how much would it cost to fund a well, and could we do that? And I think it really does a good job of bringing into perspective the things that are going on in the world. And there's a lot of hard stuff in this book and not a lot of happy endings, but that's life. And I think it was really good for my kids to understand and see things from a different perspective. And yeah, I'm a big fan. I thought this book was great. We read this book in a few days. It is a quick read, but I will say that one of the things that I really have enjoyed doing that I have not done with every book, but going and searching, Teachers Pay Teachers is just like one of my favorite sites anyways, but going and searching, I found a teacher had put together a really awesome unit study to go with this, with lots of great questions and quizzes and vocabulary things, and it really beefed up what we were doing in just reading this book. And yeah, we didn't do every single thing in the unit that she provided, but it was a great framework for me to add on to a book I hadn't read before, so I couldn't really generate that on my own without sitting down to read it. So loved that. I will leave the link to the Teachers Pay Teachers thing that goes with this as well. And then the book that I picked to share, because we all loved it, and I feel like it went to the back of their minds a little bit when I asked them to think about their favorite books, because we read it so early on in the year, but I know how much they loved it, and so did I, and that is Daughter of the Mountains. And this was it was an incredible book. It was an incredible book, and one that I mean, it had this sweet storyline of this girl wanting to rescue her dog that she had prayed for and wanted. But it takes you through different landscapes and you experience different cultures, and it's really, really a good book. This was a great book and the kids loved it. I loved it. I highly, highly recommend. And I kind of wish that I would have thought to do an add-on like through Teachers Pay Teachers and come up with some like book unit study stuff to go with it, because this would have been a great one for that, as well as Esperanza Rising. I mean, the topics that this brings up in terms of immigration and the Great Depression and going on strike for better conditions, and what does that look like, and why things like that aren't so black and white, that there's, you know, lots to be considered, and just great conversations in all of these books. These were our picks, so loved those. I want to give an honorable mention to the fact that we added in a poetry tea time this year, and it has been a huge hit with my kids. Have loved it. It's something that we will probably just continue to do even when we're not in our school year, even when we're in our period of not school. We'll continue to add in some poetry tea time and read aloud time, because I never want my kids to feel like me reading to them or reading, or, you know, reading poetry or whatever it is something that is like that school work. So I like to kind of package things differently, so that they enjoy it and it doesn't feel like a punishment. It feels like something good and something they want to do. So those were kind of, you know, adding in the poetry tea time and adding in a lot more read alouds this year was definitely A plus for us in terms of stuff we liked this year, and will definitely carry over to next year. So yeah, that is just sort of a summation of some of the things that we really loved. I'm not going to go through every single book because we did a lot of different little things here and there this year. And as I said, you know, we're very eclectic. So these are kind of the bones of a lot, and we build off of that. That's my favorite way to do things. It's what I love to do. It's part of the reason I love homeschooling. We're going to continue on and wrapping up Q4 and finishing up our school year. Coming up, we're going to be doing end of year testing, and I am going to have a video where I'm going to share with you guys sort of how I do end of year testing, like how we do it, how we schedule things, how we make it work, and how we make it work in light of the fact that I don't spend weeks and weeks and weeks training my children how to take a test. So I'll share all of that coming up in a video about end of year testing. Like I said though, don't forget to add your name to the list in the link down below. I think you will be very interested in what's coming down the pipeline. So definitely add your name to that list, because lots of fun and exciting stuff is coming. But that is it for today's video, guys. That is our homeschool recap for the year of stuff that we loved and stuff that was so for us. And yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed. I would love to hear down below in the comments anything that you used this year that you absolutely loved and that you would highly recommend to other people. Comment sections are a fabulous place to find new stuff. I have often found stuff that I didn't know about and was like, we're going to do our back to school series this year and all of that as well. So if you enjoy homeschooling content, there is more of that to come. So be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. That's it. I've been talking long enough. I will see y'all very soon. Bye.
In all the places that I've been, the faces mine are